name is Kay Byfield, and this is your ArtSpeaks Studio moment from ArtSpeaks Studio in Dallas, Texas. Today we're going to talk about the importance of doing value studies for artists who are doing two-dimensional artwork. A value study is doing a small, usually small study of the relative lights and darks that will be used within your composition. It can also be important for some artists to do a color study, but value studies typically are the most important. Even very experienced artists do value studies. The reason value becomes so important is because we see the world around us mostly through the receptors for light and dark. And so those relative amounts of light and dark become critical to the way we see. Color is less important. Color attracts us to a subject. Color is pleasurable. Color gives information. Green bananas are not ripe. But color is not usually essential for reading and understanding a visual image. So value becomes critical. Artists who make value studies are planning where the arrangements of the light and dark are going to go, and they're also refining their shape relationships, and all of that can go into the ultimate success of the painting. When I do a value study, I often understand that my shapes are not working correctly, or that I have not drawn something in a way that it is convincing. And so then I have to go back and look at those relative shapes, which saves me a huge amount of time before I even start the painting. Every time I skip straight from the reference source to the painting, I regret it. And I would submit that even artists who don't take the trouble to do value studies, if they're very successful, it's because they've done so many value studies that they can see those relative value relationships in their mind. Every color has a range from its lightest version to its darkest version. And when you do a value study, what you're doing is determining where those lights and where those darks are going to go. You are not looking at the intensity of the color or whether it's bright or dull, and you're not looking at the temperatures of the color relatively, a warm yellow versus a cool yellow, for instance, but you are looking at the light and dark. And that is really the most important part of designing your painting. Value studies are a recommended part of the painting process, and artists do these to help them plan their painting before they ever start. You can do a value study with pencil, charcoal, paint. Typically, it's always in one hue. The hue is unimportant. It could be a red value study. It could be a blue, as you see here. It can be black and white. But it gives you an idea of where the darkest darks and the lightest lights are going to go, so that when you get ready to do the painting, you've already made a good plan for how the painting is going to be designed on the page, and you know relatively where your darkest darks are going to go. The dark here behind the barrel racer is to push that barrel racer forward and bring out the interesting shapes of the girl and her horse, because that's how the painting is going to work. Here's a value study by the renowned 19th century artist Winslow Homer, in which he plans his relative lights and darks before he even does the painting. And what you'll notice is, while it's clearly the same subject matter and most of the shapes stay the same, he made a lot of adjustments in the final painting based on the information that he gained from the value study. So even a painter like Winslow Homer does a value study. Here's a photograph of a Greek Orthodox church that is not too far from where I live. And I was attracted to the building both because of its historical significance in terms of the architecture, but also the way the light plays on the surface. But I didn't want to paint it exactly as it was because I wanted the painting to be interesting, and I didn't owe the photograph or the actual church anything. I decided that I needed to crop it and refine the shapes to make them better. What I did was I took the photograph and I moved over the tree. I changed some of the relationships between the darks and the lighter values and adjusted those. And my idea is that when I do this painting, I will add a lot of color into the values, but the actual value relationships will stay the same. The value study is in 4 shades of Payne's gray, so that the color doesn't become an important aspect to this. And it gave me the chance to look and see whether the contrast between the organic shapes of the tree and the building, which is geometric, are working with one another. When I was looking for lights, midtones, and darks, you'll notice that some of the values are rendered lighter or darker than they actually appeared in the photograph. Value studies are an important aspect of doing a painting, and most artists who work two-dimensionally do them. Even three-dimensional artists find it useful to do value studies to look at the way the light is going to hit their three-dimensional piece from all directions. So value studies become a critical part of the process. In addition to giving you information that will help you when you do the subsequent painting, value studies also allow you to look at relative shape relationships, think about texture, think about paint application. All of this preparatory work helps your final piece be more successful. If I have trouble with the value study, if I find that it doesn't seem to be working very well, sometimes I will go back and do it once, twice, 3 times until I find the relationships that I think are going to work the best on the big painting. I spend so much time on the big painting, I want to be very efficient when I start it. If you haven't been doing value studies, perhaps you should try to start doing them. There's a lot of information on the internet about how a good value study is done, and I think that you will see a real difference in the success of your work. You're looking for a balance between the lights, the midtones, and the darks, even if you restrict the value scale, meaning you don't have a full range from white to black. Those relationships become absolutely critical in the way your painting will work. Thank you for joining us for this ArtSpeaks studio video, and we hope you will join us again soon. In the meantime, happy painting.